Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. We're still here. That's good news. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to join in since we're just getting started. There's a few things I want to go over tonight in this broadcast. And, typically on my channel, people who followed my work for a long time know that I don't always cover a lot of just current topics. I kind of have my own thing I do with my videos, and that's what I do best, is just kind of drawing these threads together. But this mainstream story is different. All the censorship going on. I didn't want to just focus on one aspect of it. I want to look at quite a few things with you guys, just a few clips here and there, a couple other things I want to share. And then at the very end, I have an interest in a wide range of subjects. And one of these subjects I've been looking for a long time, for something to happen, for something to come out about this particular subject. And over the last week, something really big broke. So there's a story on this I'll save for the end, and we'll go over it together. And it'll probably blow your mind. It blew mine a bit. So we'll see. Yeah, my mind can still be blown after all these years of looking into all this stuff. I can still say I'm, for the most part, sane, which is a good thing. Anyway, welcome, guys. Once again, I'll let you all join in here for a second. And let me go ahead and explain the title of the broadcast here. As I said, we're going to go over a few different things when it comes to the censorship. A lot of the censorship taking place in multiple platforms right now. But here's a really interesting one. So I had to find this uploaded to a different channel. It's from Project Veritas. You may have heard of them. They do a lot of undercover exposed type work. They do really, really good stuff. And of course, they recently did a video on Google and also on YouTube. And YouTube, of course, removed it. So anyway, there's a few people out there, a handful on YouTube I found, that have uploaded this. Super important stuff. So I just want to kind of go through a little bit of it, but we'll go ahead and start off now with what I thought was the most important part of this whole thing, really. I thought it was very interesting. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are as well. Some of you may have already seen this video. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, but I'll play it out and we'll watch it together. It's very interesting, though. It's a connection to secret societies and Google, and more specifically YouTube. I thought this was very interesting. So without further ado, we'll play this a little bit, and we'll play this out a little bit here, watch it together, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about, and we'll get into some of that. In case you didn't know, this is an insider, I guess, with Google and YouTube. A lot of these guys are breaking their NDAs, their non-disclosure agreements. That has to do with the story at the end I'm going to share with you guys as well. And people are telling the truth about what's going on. They're even providing documents and everything else. And it is all real. It's actually happening. And these companies are being forced to talk about this stuff. But even that, we're going to cover some of that as well. Can these companies be broken up? Can they be stopped? We'll see. Anyway, watch this. So first thing this guy says, this is the undercover guy here. First thing he mentions is how now on Google and on YouTube, the automatic search, like when you start searching for something, it'll kind of autocorrect or whatever, and it'll fill in the blanks for you. That's completely dead and gone now. That it's totally taken over, totally tampered with, and those days are gone. You know what I mean? Like you'll say, how do I, like in a search engine, and then it'll spell out, give you like maybe 10 choices for the completion of that. And again, this guy's saying those days are gone. It's all completely controlled now. And then he'll continue. So just check this out.
They've deleted the autocomplete off the internet like it didn't even exist.
How did they do that? Was it manually? Was it a human being? Was it a machine? AI?
Well, the way that it works is that they're training the AI now with a bunch of humans that you consider them social justice warriors or whatever you want to label them, but they are feeding the information and training the AI so that it will return results like this. And when they aren't able to to train it. There's actually someone that will go through and manually delete certain keyword terms or put it as a blacklist. There's a lot of people filing bugs internally against Google, like against these invalid results, and they ignore them because they've got no interest in fixing things that go against their social justice narrative or reduce what they consider to be fair.
Google is protected by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. It says, quote, "No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider," unquote. Meaning, Google is not liable for any content on their platform. Some people think a solution is this Section 230 and taking it away.
I mean, they violated not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Section 230 says that in order for them to be a platform, they can't censor the content that they have. And instead, they decided to act as a publisher, making them responsible for everything that they put on. And they're still masquerading as a platform, even though they're acting as a publisher.
It doesn't stop with Google search. Our insider says political biases are censoring voices on YouTube, owned by Google as well. He says the YouTube rollout discussion was at a rather bizarre location.
They didn't have it. It was a special occasion that happened in May, and they invited us all to the Masonic Temple to talk about the future of the company for YouTube. And
I know that part went by pretty quick, but he says that they invited him, YouTube invited them, these moderators, to a Masonic temple. So I'll play it again in a second. Now, first off, of course, we have to be reasonable. I understand that, some Masonic temples may rent their spaces out. Perhaps that's what it is. I don't know. But being that I cover secret societies a lot here on the channel, I just thought that was very interesting that of all places, YouTube decides to go to a Masonic temple to unleash their new moderators and their new plans. Here, I'll let him continue. We'll backtrack just a hair, and then he can repeat that part, and then we'll just keep on going for a bit, okay? You can, this is where, again, where a lot of this, the new censorship, the new wave, where it started. So let's check it out.
Violated not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Section 230 says that in order for them to be a platform, they can't censor the content that they have. And instead, they decided to act as a publisher, making them responsible for everything that they put on. And they're still masquerading as a platform, even though they're acting as a publisher.
It doesn't stop with Google search. Our insider says political biases are censoring voices on YouTube, owned by Google as well. He says the YouTube rollout discussion was at a rather bizarre location.
They didn't have it. It was a special occasion that happened in May, and they invited us all to the Masonic Temple to talk about the future of the company for YouTube, and they described that they were going to have more content filtering. And right after that happened, a lot of the content creators started to get demonetized, and their videos started to get deranked. I'm talking about...
Anyway, we'll stop there for now. I don't want to sit here and play all the footage, but that's the main stuff I wanted to get from this particular clip. And at the beginning of the show, I was talking about how, I want to cover this because it's really important. And it is important because they're not just censoring the individuals, they're censoring you. They're censoring the audience. They're censoring what you want to watch. Same with me. They're taking away all the things we want to watch. It's so sanitized now. Let me give you another example. Well, before I do, you may have just joined, but this Google insider just mentioned that YouTube had a meeting with the moderators at a Masonic temple, of all places. Very interesting. And right after that is when this new wave of censorship just started over the last few months. But, the secret societies are what's in control. Some of you may remember this. Maybe some of you didn't, but check this little bit out from Newt Gingrich. This is from back in 2016. He's talking about Trump as a presidential candidate. But I'm not so much concerned about all that. It's just what he says. Just check it out.
Faced with a very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot
Why?
imagine sharing. Well, because he's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He's uncontrollable. You know, he hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society.
Yeah, I remember that. So, you know, that's, to me, every now I see so much footage throughout the years with the kind of work I've been doing, but some things always really stick out. This is one of them that really stuck out. You finally have a big mainstream character that's actually talking about the secret societies in politics. So again, we know that that's what's up and how things are run. But what do you guys think about that? I'm curious to see your thoughts. I can't watch chat right now. I'll join in later, but you know, maybe once this is uploaded as well, what do you think about the fact that YouTube met their moderators, their secret moderators, in a Masonic temple of all places, and then unleashed this new form of censorship? I think it's interesting. I think it's a very interesting point. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump around here a little bit and look at a couple other things I want to share with you. You ever heard of Pinterest? So I have Pinterest. I use it as well. You know, I put my videos and stuff over there. But even they are now in the business of banning people, apparently. And it seems recently, you may have heard this. I think we covered it on one of my What Happened shows, but just recently they got in trouble for mixing up Bible terms. It was like, instead of Bible verses, like SES, it was SUS. They also put some Christian sites, I believe, over on a banned porn list. Let's take a look here. I think they explained some.
A Pinterest insider shed light on some activities that shareholders may want to know about. So what are we looking at here? It seems to be a bunch of XXX and porn websites, and then there appears to be the live action website. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at pins with domains that are blocked. Any domain on the porn block list, you can't make a pin like that. And I happened to discover this because of a Slack thread talking about pro-life content, and somebody happened to notice that liveaction.org was blocked. And so I was pretty surprised, and I went to our porn domain block list, and then sure enough, I found Live Action on there.
Live Action is a group founded by Lila Rose that tries to educate people about the pro-life movement. Many of their projects focus on detailing medical procedures used by abortion providers. The documents the Pinterest insider gave us appear to show code, guidelines, and the actual employees making censorship decisions, including specific actions taken against Live Action. Why do you think they're targeting Live Action?
I think because Live Action is effective, and I think they're seeing increased pressure in the abortion debate.
Anyway, I'll stop on that one as well. Like I said, I don't want to run through all these clips here, but you can look these up yourself. I highly suggest you do. If you've never heard of Project Veritas, this guy is doing some really incredible work and exposing a lot of things right now. So, you know, check it out sometime. That goes to show you right there, Pinterest. Now, they only spoke about the stuff with Live Action, but also later on, they talk about some Bible terms have been censored over there as well. So, you know, and me, I look at all this as a spirit more than anything else, as a wicked spirit, you know, the Antichrist spirit, if you will. Cruel, hateful. These companies are becoming the biggest bullies on the block, right, to say the least. Here's another one, a little bit from Facebook, a Facebook insider. Check some of this out.
In the orientation at Facebook, they said the number one rule of Facebook is don't talk about Facebook. I see an odd note on an account. Being a curious person, I decided to look into it more.
Things will only change if we, the people, are brave enough to step forward and do something bold. They may be able to stop one man, but they can't stop all of them.
And so I felt that the best thing to do was to inform the public because they had a right to know.
This is Danny Ben David, a software engineer. On his website, Ben David writes, "I am now working at Facebook as a software engineer. I'm part of the problem, I know." In the leaked documents our insider gave us, we came across a back-end view of Mike Cernovich's page. On it, we could see Ben David running an action called Action deboost live distribution. In fact, Ben David wrote the code and may have invented the word deboost. Who is Danny Ben David?
From my understanding, Danny Ben David is a software engineer at Facebook. He did not work at the same location as me, but I noticed that every time I would see this deboost live stream kind of code on there, that his name was always next to it.
Okay, again, just wanted to play just a brief bit of that. I hope you'll go look into some of these videos yourself and check them out. These people completely and totally expose these companies. So to me, and there's so much of this going on right now, these are exciting times. We're seeing real kind of warfare, if you can, over truth, you could say, or spiritual warfare, but it's getting intense, man. The truth is becoming a really rare bird these days, it seems. Here's another one. This is Twitter.
We're trying to get the shitty people not to go off. It's a product thing.
Let's say it was a pro-Trump thing, and I am anti-Trump. I was like, oh, I banned this whole account. They'll go to you, and then it's at your discretion. And if you're anti-Trump, you're like, oh, you know what, Mueller's right. Let it go.
The idea of the shadow ban is that you ban someone, but they don't know they've been banned because they keep posting, but no one sees their content. So they just think that no one's engaging with their content when in reality, no one's seeing it.
That right there, I mean, he perfectly explained psychological warfare, what I believe is a psychological operation. They've been doing this to a lot of us, a lot of the YouTube creators. I've shown you, some of you have seen maybe on my other social media, maybe one of my past shows, I talked about my Social Blade and what they're doing over there. That shows an accurate, account of all the activity on your YouTube channel. And you can go there and see that they're still taking views from the channel, just boof, 14,000 gone, 20,000, whatever. Last month, it was around 230,000. And same with the subscribers, they just bleed them out. Since I uploaded something new today, actually 2 things, I'm curious to see what it looks like later because there'll probably be a lot of lost subscribers. Okay, so, but that's just one case. Same thing, you can look up the scariest movie ever in YouTube and you're going to get nothing but, you may see my channel down a page, but other than that, you'll see none of my videos. You're going to get mainstream sources of Hollywood horror movie trailers. That's it. So my channel has been shadow banned and many other people are being shadow banned. It's not just me. I know that. But, that's the time we're in. So, I told y'all a while back, it puts you at a crossroads, So like I said, I'm working on peppering my workout and a lot of other social media sites. I'm trying to compile stuff together. I want to start moving everything over to BitChute just to keep it safe there. And, that's it. But in between, I'm also trying to finish videos and work on things. So, just thanks for your patience with me. I'm trying to get everything set up. And, really, because at this point, it's beyond a money thing. They've already screwed most of us over in that department anyway on YouTube. But it's about keeping my work alive. I really believe in what I've done all these years. So I want to make sure I get it out there in other places just in case. You know what I mean? Anyway, here's a few things I want to show you as well. Let's see. So this is a Congress. One thing I forgot to show you, okay, is that I'll tell you what it is in a second because it fits with this. Let's watch a little bit of this though, but you can see that they're actually in Washington. Some people are talking about this. We'll see how far that goes, but it just goes to show you that this is this is a big deal. I mean, obviously, people are seeing it, even though left stream media in America is totally silent on this stuff. Strangely enough, right? Most likely because the censorship works in their favor. But anyway, let's check some of this out.
Google. They show that labeling mainstream conservative media as Nazis is a premise upon which you operate. It's not even a question, according to those emails. The emails say, given that Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Dennis Prager are Nazis, given that that's a premise, what do we do about it? 2 of 3 of these people are Jewish, very religious Jews, and yet you think they're Nazis. It begs the question, what kind of education do people at Google have? Do they think that religious Jews are Nazis? Those those are hard discussions to have, and I don't know that we're going to solve them today. But the problem is that the testimony doesn't stop there. The policies at your social media companies do not stop there. It doesn't stop at the clear-cut lines of terrorism and terrorist videos and terrorist propaganda. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what we're talking about. It goes much further than that. It goes down the slippery slope of what speech is appropriate for your platform and the vague standards that you employ in order to decide what is appropriate. And this is especially concerning given the recent news and the recent leaked emails from Google. They show that labeling mainstream conservative media as Nazis is a premise upon which you operate. Not even a question, according to those emails. The emails say, given that Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Dennis Prager are Nazis, given that that's a premise, what do we do about it? 2 of 3 of these people are Jewish, very religious Jews, and yet you think they're Nazis. It begs the question, what kind of education people at Google have? Do they think that religious Jews are Nazis? 3 of 3 of these people had family members killed in the Holocaust. Ben Shapiro is the #1 target of the alt-right, and yet you people operate off the premise that he's a Nazi. It's pretty disturbing. And it gets to the question, do you believe in hate speech? How do you define that? Can you give me a quick definition right now? Is it written down somewhere, Google? You give me a definition of hate speech.
Congressman, yes. So hate speech, again, as updated in our guidelines now, extends to superiority over protected groups to justify discrimination, violence, and so on, based on a number of defining characteristics, whether that's race, sexual orientation, veteran status.
Do you have an example of Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson or Dennis Prager engaging in hate speech? Do you have one example off the top of your head?
So, Congressman, we evaluate individual piece of content based on that content rather than based on the speaker.
Okay.
Yuck, right? Anyway, that's pretty much all I want to show of that too. But just this guy, this Mr. Slater, seems like the Weasley corporate type, doesn't he? He just perfectly fits the Hollywood mold of a sniveling Weasley corporate type, it seems. Here's another example. This is Senator Ted Cruz talking to somebody at Google about the Project Veritas report. Oh, and also, I'll go ahead and throw in this part now. Earlier, we were looking briefly at the video where the insider was talking about how they met at a Masonic temple, YouTube did, with their moderators to unleash this latest form of censorship. I find that very interesting. But in that video earlier on, there was a lady from Google who's profiled in a larger part of that video. And again, you should go watch it sometime. A big Google CEO or whatever, right? And she's talking about how Congress is looking into it, but she's saying that they're still not going to change anything. So they're well aware of Congress doing this, talking to other execs. But even she's saying it doesn't matter. They're not going to change their practices. Anyway, let's watch some of this.
With a report that was released yesterday from Veritas that included a whistleblower from within Google, that included videos from a senior executive at Google, and that included documents that are purportedly internal PowerPoint documents from Google.
Yes, I heard about that report in industry news.
Have you seen the report?
No, I have not.
So you didn't review the report to prepare for this hearing?
It's been a busy day, and I have a day job, which is digital well-being at Google. So I'm trying to make sure I keep the trains on the
sorry,
tracks.
this hearing is impinging on your day job.
It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
So a different individual, a whistleblower identified simply as an insider at Google with knowledge of the algorithm, quoted on the same report as saying, Google, quote, is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again. Do you think it's Google's job to make sure, quote, somebody like Donald Trump never comes to power again?
No, sir, I don't think that is Google's job. And we build for everyone, including every single religious belief, every single demographic, every single region, and certainly every political affiliation.
Well, I have to say that that certainly does not appear to be the case. So a final question, one of these documents that was leaked explains what Google is doing, and it has a series of steps Training data are collected and classified. Algorithms are programmed. Media are filtered, ranked, aggregated, and guaranteed. And that ends with people, parentheses, like us, are programmed.
Anyway, that's about all I want to show that too. But, you know, as I said earlier, I just want to show little glimpses of some of this stuff, kind of piecing it together. I think it's interesting that, you know, that we have these big politicians here talking about this. You know, we have Google up on the hill, you know, have an answer for some of this. But, you know, we also understand a lot of this stuff can be theater as well. So not to be a cynic, I'd love to think that maybe things could change. But, you know, sometimes I wonder if all these are just glimpses of, you know, the end game. You know, we'll see, because the battle is now. If anyone's really going to do something about it, they need to do it soon. But we'll see. And either way, to stay optimistic about it, no matter what happens with this platform, YouTube and Google and everything else, there's people out here like myself that are always going to try to find a way to continue. You know, we'll find other platforms, we'll find other ways to get stuff out there, and that's the way it is. So, you know, we'll see how it all plays out, I suppose. I put this up too just because it's a good reminder. Some of you have seen this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll just play the beginning. This is what mind control looks like. Just a good reminder, again, guys, how most everything we see on television and movies is theater, right? So anyway, check this out for a second.
Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these simply aren't true without checking facts first.
unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control.
I think you get the point. I love how they're all different companies, right? As you see all of them, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, all of them are in there together, but they're all in the same script. Here's something I tossed up. I just wanted to put out there. Financial blacklisting. Again, I see a lot of this as what I believe is an antichrist spirit, you know, growing in the land, people's hearts growing colder, more of this nasty kind of behavior and censorship even. Chase Bank withdraws service from independent and conservative figures. Now, this is from the beginning of 2019, February 27th. I believe they may have backtracked on this. You may want to go look that up. They may have pulled this back. But even so, again, this goes to show you, you know, was that just a beta test? I don't know. You know, kind of dipping their feet in the water to see what happens. But there's people who are calling for this. There are groups that are actually calling for this. They want to go after people's finances. That's one of the most powerful ways that you can knock somebody down. You know, that's why, again, like what YouTube's done to so many creators, again, in different realms even. You know, a lot of these people, they have families and children, you know, the whole thing, man. And just boom, overnight, a lot of them are going broke. I mean, that's just what happens. I know some people out there may not care about that with YouTube figures, but as I said, it's across a large spectrum of creators, different types. And it's affecting everybody. The censorship's affecting everybody in different ways. Some people are getting away with it, it seems. Some channels are still able to grow and benefit. But, you know, hey, man, God bless you and good luck. You know, if you're able to do that on YouTube still, that's wonderful. Maybe they'll do something about it, the government. Who knows? Maybe it'll change things for the better. I'm not sure. Maybe you can make it through. But, you know, we all have to speak about these things and get it out there. You know, just get the information out to the public and let people be aware. Again, this is a very important subject. So I wanted to toss that up. Here's something else I thought was interesting here. This is on a YouTube Insider on Twitter. Just going to go through and look at some of these replies. But they this happened a few days ago. And, of course, this was after the leak, the video from Project Veritas. They say, we've had a lot of questions today clarifying we apply our policies fairly. and without political bias. All creators are held to the same standard. And then this is a lady from Live Action. And she's saying, you buried live action videos with millions of views in your search results after pro-abortion Slate writer complained our medically accurate animations of abortion procedures were on first page. Instead, you boosted videos promoting abortion. Explain how there's no bias. This guy says it's no bias. It's called algorithmic unfairness. No one, I repeat, no one believes this is true. I agree they enjoy the regulations of being a platform, but treat people as if they are a publisher. Pick one and stick to it. Lots of memes, of course. It's one from Lauren Chen. It's a pretty big YouTuber there. And there you go. Anyway, it's good that the people pull together. You don't see this very often on Twitter where everybody's pretty much on the same page. But this is one of those cases where it seems regulation is coming, this guy's saying. It seems everybody, for the most part here, it seems actually 100% is pissed off at YouTube. So, the public for a long time now has been turning against this platform as well. I will throw this out there, though, at the same time. I mean, when all these things came towards me and others out there, especially those of us who are trying to speak outside the mainstream narrative, it didn't come as a big surprise. This is just a new wave of the censorship. This has been going on for like 3 years now. Every year, right around summertime, they seem to start a new kind of an adpocalypse thing, new censorship, new regulations. It's been this way for a few years. And if you're really trying to speak the truth about things today in this world, and you don't have any opposition or any struggles, then you're doing something wrong. I understand that as well. And I'm also very grateful for the fact I have YouTube, a YouTube channel still. And, I'm grateful for that. That's awesome. And it means everything to me. I just don't like, of course, all the shenanigans. So anyway, here's the final story I thought was really interesting. It's from The Verge. At Facebook's worst performing content moderation site in North America, one contractor has died and others say they fear for their lives. So this is what I was looking for a really long time, is somebody who had been a moderator for either YouTube, or Facebook or Twitter, any one of these companies. But I wanted to see them come out and really hammer home some heavy truth about what it's like and what's going on there, because I always wonder when they're really doing their job right, because there is obviously some content that needs to be removed from the internet, and we understand those categories probably, right? Most of us get that, like extreme, sexual stuff or violent stuff or whatever, right? We understand that. So, there is a need, and I've always wondered with the moderators, how does that affect you when that's really your job, when you have to sit there and look at the most violent and disgusting crap all day long, and that's your job day in, day out. I bet, like on YouTube, I imagine that some of those people were probably relieved when they changed their terms of service and said they're coming after conspiracy theories and stuff that was edgy and all that, right? Maybe it was a nice break for them from having to look at all the truly disturbing stuff that's on YouTube. I don't know, but still. Anyway, let's check this out together, all right? Keith Utley loved to help. First, he served in the Coast Guard. Awesome. I served in the Coast Guard 8 years myself, so there you go. Where he rose to the rank of lieutenant commander. I only rose to sergeant. It took forever to get to medical type school. I was a medic. He married, had a family, and devoted himself utterly to his 2 little girls. After he got out of the military, he worked as a moderator for Facebook, where he purged the social network of the worst stuff that its users post on a daily basis: the hate speech, the murders, the child pornography. Utley worked the overnight shift at a Facebook content moderation site in Tampa, Florida, operated by a professional services vendor named Cognizant. The 800 or so workers there face relentless pressure from their bosses to better enforce the social network's community standards, which receive near daily updates that leave its contractor workforce in a perpetual state of uncertainty. The Tampa site has routinely failed to meet the 98% accuracy target set by Facebook. In fact, with a score that has been hovering around 92, it is Facebook's worst performing site in North America. The stress of the job weighed on Utley, according to his former co-workers who, like all Facebook contractors at the Tampa site, must sign a 14-page There's your NDA, non-disclosure agreement. The stress they put on him, it's unworldly, one of Utley's managers told me. I did a lot of coaching. I spent some time talking with him about things he was having issues seeing, and he was always worried about getting fired. On the night of March 9th, 2018, Utley slumped over at his desk. Coworkers noticed that he was in distress when he began sliding out of his chair. Two of them began to perform CPR, but no defibrillator was available in the building. A manager called the ambulance. The Cognizant site in Tampa is set back from the main road in an office park, and between the dim nighttime lighting and discreet exterior signage, the ambulance appears to have had trouble finding the building. Paramedics arrived 13 minutes after the first call. One worker told me, and when they did, Utley had already begun to turn blue. Paramedics raced Utley to a hospital. At Cognizant, some employees were distraught. One person told me he passed by one of the site's designated, quote, tranquility rooms and found one of his coworkers, a part-time preacher, praying loudly in tongues. Others ignored the commotion entirely and continued to moderate Facebook posts as the paramedics worked. Zombies, man, right? Robots. Utley was pronounced dead a short while later at the hospital, the victim of a heart attack. Further information about his health history or the circumstances of his death could not be learned. He left behind a wife, Joni, and two young daughters. He was 42 years old. On Monday morning, workers on the day shift were informed that there had been an incident, and they began collecting money to buy a card and send flowers. But some site leaders did not initially tell workers that Utley had died and instructed managers not to discuss his death. Current and former employees had told me, or him, or the writer. Everyone at leadership was telling people he was fine, okay, he'll be okay, one coworker recalled. They wanted to play it down. I think they were worried about people quitting with the emotional impact it would have. But the illusion shattered later that day when Utley's father, Ralph, came to the site to gather his belongings. He walked into the building, and according to a coworker I spoke to, said, "My son died here." In February, I wrote about the secret lives of Facebook contractors in America since 2016, when the company came under heavy criticism for failing to prevent various abuses of its platform. Facebook has expanded its workforce of people working on safety and security around the world to 30,000 people. About half of those are content moderators, and the vast majority are contractors hired through a handful of large professional services firms. Great. These are the people moderating our channels. Cognizant received a 2-year, $200 million contract from Facebook to do the work, according to a former employee familiar with the matter. But in return for policing the boundaries of free expression on one of the internet's largest platforms, individual contractors in North America make as little as $28,000 a year. They receive 2 15-minute breaks and 30-minute lunch each day, along with 9 minutes per day of, quote, wellness time that they can use when they feel overwhelmed by the emotional toll of the job. Oh my goodness. They also wear Pampers. After regular exposure to graphic violence and child exploitation, many workers are subsequently diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and related conditions. Now that's not funny. My initial report focused on Phoenix, where workers told me that they had begun to embrace fringe views after continuously being exposed to conspiracy theories at work. One brought a gun to work to protect himself against the possibility of a fired employee returning to the office seeking vengeance. Others told me they were haunted by visions of the images and videos they saw during their time on the job. Okay, what kind of conspiracy videos were you looking at? Conditions at the Phoenix site have not improved significantly since I visited last week. Some employees were sent home after an infestation of bed bugs was discovered in the office. The second time bed bugs have been found this year. Employees who contacted me worried that the infestation would spread to their own homes and said managers told them that Cognizant would not pay to clean their homes. Okay. In May, I traveled to Florida to meet with these Facebook contractors. This article is based on interviews with 12 current and former moderators and managers at the Tampa site. In most cases, I agreed to use pseudonyms to protect the employees from potential retaliation from Facebook and Cognizant. But for the first time, 3 former moderators for Facebook in North America agreed to break their NDAs and discuss working conditions at the site on the record. Employees told me that pressure from managers to improve its performance has taken a toll on the workforce. Cognizant's contract with Facebook is coming up for renewal, and with the entire company struggling to hit the 98% accuracy target, There are widespread concerns internally that Cognizant will lose Facebook's business. Contractors told me that Cognizant had lured them away from less demanding jobs by promising regular schedules, bonuses, career development, only to renege on all three. They described a filthy workplace in which they regularly find pubic hair and other bodily waste at their workstations. Employees said managers laugh off or ignore sexual harassment and threats of violence. 2 discrimination cases have been filed with the EEOC since April. And they said marijuana use is so prevalent that the site manager jokingly complained at an all-hands meeting that he had gotten a contact high walking in the door. More than anything else, the contractors described an environment in which they are never allowed to forget how quickly they can be replaced. It is a place where even Keith Utley, who died working alongside them, would receive no workplace memorial, only a passing mention during team huddles in the days after he passed. There is no indication that this medical condition was work-related, Cognizant told me in a statement. The corporation said, "Our associates, colleagues, managers, and our client were all saddened by this tragic event." Okay, the client being Facebook. Utley's family could not be reached for comment. Employees who began working after he died told me they had never heard his name. "We were bodies in seats," one former moderator told me. "We were nothing to them at all." Sean Spiegel was 23 and employed at an online education company working with English language learners when he visited a Cognizant job fair. A recruiter there described to him a role in which Spiegel would primarily help businesses analyze engagement on their Facebook pages. This is the making of a secret moderator here, right? He might have to do some content moderation, the recruiter said, but Spiegel entered the interview believing he was about to embark on a new career in high technology, one that he hoped would eventually lead to a full-time role at Facebook. He's so young and naive, Mr. Spiegel. Young and naive. We were all there. We've all been there. Cognizant offered Spiegel $15 an hour to do their job full-time, a marked improvement over his previous job, which was seasonal. Only after he began training did he realize that the job would not, in fact, involve helping businesses with Facebook marketing. Instead, 2 weeks after Spiegel was put onto the production floor, a manager told him that he and a colleague would be reviewing graphic violence and hate speech full-time for $15 an hour. For our associates who opt to work in content moderation, we are transparent about the work they will perform, a Cognizant spokesman said in a response. The corporation said in a response. They are made aware of the nature of the role before and during the hiring process and then given extensive and specific training before working on projects. It said. The corporation said. But had his managers asked, they would have learned that Spiegel had a history of anxiety and depression and that he might not be suited well for the role. No one did. This is Mr. Spiegel. He looks like a bigger version of Napoleon Dynamite to me, doesn't he? They just said me and my colleague were very meticulous and had a lot of promise to move up to the SME position, Spiegel said, referring to the subject matter experts who make $1 more per hour in exchange for answering moderators' questions about Facebook policy. They said Facebook is basically shoving all of their graphic violence content to us, that they didn't want it anymore, so they had to move more people to cover it. And that's all that we saw every single day. Spiegel vividly recalls the first video he saw in his new assignment. 2 teenagers. I've read this part before, so just warning you, this is really terrible stuff here. So give me maybe a few minutes if you want to walk away, go to the tranquility room and kick it for a few minutes and then come back, that's fine. Spiegel vividly recalls the first video he saw in his new assignment. 2 teenagers spot an iguana on the ground. One picks it up by the tail. A third teenager films what happens next. The teen holding the iguana begins smashing it onto the street. Quote, "They beat the living S out of this thing," Spiegel told me as tears welled up in his eyes. The iguana was screaming and crying, and they didn't stop until the thing was a bloody pulp. Okay, now we're back. Come back from the tranquility room. Under the policy, the video was allowed to remain on Facebook. Whoa, right? A manager told him that by leaving the video online, authorities would be able to catch the perpetrators. But as the weeks went on, the video continued to reappear in his queue, and Spiegel realized that police were unlikely to look into the case. Spiegel had volunteered at animal shelters in the past, and watching the iguana die on a regular basis rattled him. Can you imagine that, man? Seriously. This is just one video we're talking about here. These guys had to see over and over, but he says they kept reposting it again and again and again, pounding the table as he spoke. It made me so angry I had to listen to its screams all day. Cognizant's Tampa facility opened in a maze-like office park in the summer of 2017, about 2 months after the Phoenix facility came online. It operates out of a single-story building next to a pond fed by 2 storm drains. Who cares? Before the office opened, the company began advertising work on Indeed and other job sites using opaque titles such as, quote, social media analyst. I'm curious, anybody listening live, or if you're watching this after it's uploaded, have any of you ever done this kind of work? Maybe you had to sign an NDA, I'm not sure. Maybe you just don't care. Maybe the NDA ran out. But if any of you listening now ever been involved in this kind of work, social media analyst, quote unquote, or anything like that, I'm curious. Initially, applicants are not told they will be working for Facebook, only a, quote, large social media company. Cognizant was not always straightforward with applicants about the nature of the work in Tampa. Marcus, who worked in management, told me that a recruiter had persuaded him to leave a more normal job with the promise of a regular schedule, performance bonuses, all that stuff. Marcus was made to moderate Facebook content, an additional responsibility he says he was not prepared for. A military veteran, he'd become desensitized to seeing violence against people, he told me. But on his second day of moderation duty, he had to watch a video of a man slaughtering puppies with a baseball bat. Marcus went home on his lunch break, held his dog in his arms, and cried. I should quit, he thought to himself, but I know there's people at the site that need me. He ultimately stayed for a little over a year. Cognizant calls the part of the building where contractors do their work, quote, the production floor, and it quickly filled with employees. The minimum wage in Florida is $8.46, and at $15 an hour, the job pays better than most call center work in the area. For many content moderators, Cognizant refers to them by the enigmatic title of, quote, process executive. It was their first real job. In its haste to fill the workplace, Cognizant made some odd staffing decisions. Early on, the company hired Gignesh Movalia, a former investment advisor, as a moderator. Cognizant conducts background checks on new hires, but apparently failed even to run a basic web search for Movalia. Had they done so, they would have learned that in 2015, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for his involvement in a $9 million investment fraud scheme. According to the FBI, Movalia had falsely claimed to have access to shares of a fast-growing tech startup about to begin trading on the public market, and the startup was Facebook. Movalia was eventually fired, but employees I spoke with believed his tenure exemplified Cognizant's approach to hiring moderators. Find bodies wherever you can, ask as few questions as possible, and get them into a seat on the production floor where they can start working. They care about you. Cognizant cares about you. It reminds me of that scene from Idiocracy with the guy standing at supposed to be a Walmart or whatever it is, the superstore, right? Saying, welcome to Walmart, I love you. Welcome to Walmart, I love you. They called it something else, but welcome to Walmart, I love you. Cognizant loves you. Cognizant loves you. The result is a raucous workplace where managers send regular emails to the staff complaining about their behavior on the site. Nearly every person I interviewed independently compared the Tampa office to a high school. Loud altercations, often over workplace romances, regularly take place between co-workers. Verbal and physical fights break out on a monthly basis, employees told me. A dress code was instituted to discourage employees from wearing provocative clothing to work. This is not a nightclub, read an email to all employees obtained by The Verge. Another email warned employees that there had been numerous incidents of theft on the property, including stolen food from the office refrigerator, food from vending machines, and employees' personal items. Sounds like a nightmare. Michelle Benetti and Melinda Johnson both began working at the Tampa site in June 2018. They told me that the daily difficulty of moderating content combined with a chaotic office environment made life miserable. At first, it didn't bother me, but after a while, it started taking a toll, Benetti told me. I got to feel like a cloud of darkness over me. I started being depressed. I'm a very happy, outgoing person, and I was becoming withdrawn. My anxiety went up. It was hard to get through it every day. It started affecting my home life. Johnson was particularly disturbed by the site's sole bathroom, which she regularly found in a state of disrepair. The company says it has janitors available every shift in Tampa. In the stalls, signs posted in response to employee misbehavior proliferated. Do not use your feet to flush the toilet, reads one. Another one is do not flush more than 5 toilet seat covers at one time, okay? Do not put any substances, natural or unnatural, on the walls, okay. Makes sense, right? Monkeys, you dumb monkeys, listen, right? Hey, monkeys, don't put your feet on or don't use your feet to flush the toilet. Don't flush 5 toilet seat covers, you dumb monkeys. And obviously the signs are there for a reason because people are doing this, said Johnson, who worked at the site till March. Every bit of that building was absolutely disgusting. You'd go in the bathroom and there'd be period blood, and doo-doo all over the place. It smelled horrendous all the time. She added, it's a sweatshop in America. I guess these are the 2 ladies here that had the job. These are a couple of the ladies that were moderators for Facebook. It sounds like it was a nightmare working there. The workday in Tampa is divided into 5 shifts and desks are shared between employees. Contractors I spoke with said, the lady that wrote this, not me. Contractors I spoke with said they would frequently come to work and find their workstation for the day in dire condition, encountering boogers. Ooh, everybody hates boogers. Fingernails and pubic hairs, awesome, among other items. The desks would be cleaned whenever Facebook made one of its regular planned visits to the site. At other times, employees told me the office was filthy. Florida law does not require employers to offer sick leave, and so Cognizant loves you. Cognizant loves you. And so Cognizant workers who feel ill must instead use personal leave time. They're granted 5 hours of personal leave per pay period. Missing work is one of the few reasons Cognizant regularly fires its contractors. And so to avoid receiving a, quote, occurrence, as the company calls unapproved absences, contractors who have exhausted their break time come to work sick and occasionally vomit in trash cans on the production floor. A worker named Lola told me that health problems had resulted in her receiving so many occurrences she was at risk of being fired. She began going into work even when she felt ill to the point of throwing up. Facebook contractors are required to use a browser extension to report every time they use the bathroom, but during a recent illness, Lola quickly took all of her allotted breaks. She had previously been written up for going to the bathroom too many times, she said, and so she felt afraid to get up from her desk. A manager saw that she was not feeling well and brought a trash can to her desk so she could throw up in it. So she did. Then I was crying at my desk, Lola said. I was like, I can't go on. My coworker said, just go home. I said, I can't because I'm going to get an occurrence. It sounds Orwellian, doesn't it? I have too many occurrences. They're going to fire me. I'll meet you in the tranquility room with a big fat joint. Employees told me about other disturbing incidents at the Tampa site, among them an employee who used a colostomy bag had it rupture while she was at work, spilling all the waste onto the floor. All right. Senior managers were overheard mocking her. She eventually quit. An employee who threatened to, quote, shoot up the building in a group chat was placed on paid leave and allowed to return. He was fired after making another similar threat. Another employee broadcast himself on Facebook Live talking about wanting to bash a manager's head in. Another manager determined that he was making a joke and he was not disciplined. In April, 2 women who work at the Tampa site filed complaints with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, alleging that they had been sexually harassed by 2 of their male coworkers. According to the complaint, the men regularly discussed butt sex in the office. When the women were not receptive to the discussion, one of the men said he was going to start a YouTube channel and record himself shooting up the place, according to the complaint. On April 3rd, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office came to the site to interview the women. According to the officer's report, one of the men had been photographed following one of the women home. Sheesh. You know, it's a long article, and I think we got most of the meat off that bone. I don't want to read the entire thing. If you like, you can go to The Verge yourself, verge.com, and look up Bodies and Seats right here, the story about Facebook. Some crazy stuff, though, right? It's just interesting, again, to see what kind of lives some of these people lead. They didn't go so much into... Well, I guess they did. They kind of explained everything, I think, fairly well, like the job and some of the kind of things they were having to watch all day. But isn't that something? You know, and I always wonder what kind of people are on the other end on YouTube moderating us and deciding what's good and what's bad. I did one of my KJ's What Happened shows maybe about 1.5 years ago or so. And I looked for this again on YouTube. I couldn't find it. But about 1.5 years ago, another YouTube channel, not even like conspiracy stuff or whatever. Maybe it had been like a comic channel or I'm subbed to, you know, comic channels and mainstream sources. And again, that's because the kind of work I do is I'm trying to see what's the people are watching, and then I look into it and see what I can find or whatever. But it's one of those kind of websites, or one of those kind of YouTube channels. And this guy had an interview set up with a YouTube moderator. She had got into YouTube through the YouTube Heroes program. And even at the time, I was half joking, but saying this might be one of the most terrifying videos I've ever seen. Because, and again, no offense to this kid. I mean, she's probably 19, 20 years old, pink hair. And of course, every other word was like, oh my God, like we have like a lot of power, you know, like, and it's like crazy. Like, and I was watching this. I couldn't even watch a lot of it because I was like truly terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, my channel that I care a lot about, my life's work, and everybody else, you know, it's in the hands of you know, people like this or worse. You never know. Like, I don't know. Okay. Like, but it's like that's the end pretty much of the broadcast. Like, so before we go, I'm going to jump over here to the chat room and say hi to everybody. Usually I'm a little bit behind you guys when it comes to the chat room, but yeah, man. Hey guys, crazy times. I'm grateful to still be here. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thanks for the like, share, subscribe stuff, which I never say in my videos. I still don't, but you guys do it anyway. So thank you so very much, man, for the Patreon support, the PayPal support. You guys are awesome, man. You keep me going. Thank you. Anybody else ever wants to join in on Patreon or even PayPal, I'll leave links below later. But anyway, just thanks for all the support. For the moderators, hey, Tamara, you're the first one I saw. I don't know who else is over here. I'm going to kind of jump back, but I've seen Jaws of Steel's here. Hey, Jaws. Tamara's here for the moderators. Effie, good to see you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, ladies. Much appreciated. I've got some of the coolest, best moderators out there. So there you go, man. There's the show. Before we go, I'd like to just leave in a prayer, man. I've been trying to do that more with my live broadcasts. And I know some of you may not dig it, but, you know, I got to be me. So that being said, Heavenly Father, thanks once again. I always say this, but thanks once again for protecting my work right now online. You know, it means so much to me. Thank you for giving me the platform I have. Thanks so much for the people out there listening, watching, and everything else. Father, thank you. These are crazy times. But please, Lord, help us all to remember to stay at peace through you, through Christ, stay at peace, and even joy, you know, to find joy in our lives outside of all the madness, you know, to find balance of exposing these things and also living our lives. And for anybody out there who doesn't know the Lord, who hasn't had a relationship with the Lord through Jesus Christ, it's very simple. The concept is, and Lord, I just pray that, you know, we'll put it out there right now. Lord, I pray that the people listen and anybody on the fence will understand this. But it's very simple. You know, first thing you have to do is admit you're a sinner. You admit that you're a wretch. That's not easy to do. But when you really look at it through the context of the word, we see just how horrible we can actually be. And we don't want to hold on to that. Okay. We need to understand that we need, I believe, a savior. We need to be saved. So ask Jesus to come into your heart and to guide your life and accept him as your personal Lord and Savior. Repent. Now that's a tough word because people repent all the time and keep falling back, but it's part of the human condition. But you can make it. You know, all these things in your life that are holding you back and that are hurting you, let them go. Give them to God and, you know, read the Bible for yourself. Maybe find a community to study with. And that's it. Lord, thank you for letting me ramble. Even in my prayers, Lord, I ramble. So thank you, though, for everything. I love you. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. There you go, guys. Yes, I even ramble in my prayers. But hey, that's how I roll, I guess. Anyway, look, guys, I'm going to let you go for now. I uploaded a brand new video today. Don't know if you saw it yet. You may not have got it in your feed, but please check it out at the channel. It's a simple question. Are you ready to worship the fallen aliens? Simple question. So check it out, guys. Anyway, more stuff coming on the way as always. Thanks again and take care.